bookish friends, my name is Jackie and welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to talk about 10 BookTok books that I've read and whether I think they're worth the hype. The first book I wanted to talk about is I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jennette McCurdy. I really enjoyed this one, so I would say that yes, it is worth the hype. It is a memoir that really details her difficult childhood and her career as a child actor on Nickelodeon, and it really also contemplates the complex feelings that she feels after the death of her mother and how this has allowed her to break free from her mother's controlling influence and allows her to pursue her own identity. So we get a lot of information and backstory about her controlling mother and how she was a reason for why Jennette became involved within the entertainment industry, and I think that was really important to discuss. She also talks a lot about eating disorders and addiction within the story and how her mother was one of the influences that led her to developing an eating disorder as a child. This was caused by a lot of the pressures and trauma that her mother would put on her because she wanted her to stay thin and look young in order to receive certain acting roles. And after her mother's death, she begins therapy and wants to break free from this toxic cycle that she's been living in, and she goes on a journey of self-discovery to try to find happiness and fulfillment in her own life and separate her own expectations for her life from the demands of her mother. So she also does talk about iCarly and how this show impacted her life within the book and how the experience was mixed for her because there were some negative experiences on the set of Nickelodeon while she was filming this. However, she did get a lot from the fans and the fandom who really enjoyed the TV show, and it makes it very difficult for her to talk about within the memoir. She recognizes that a lot of her pain comes from filming on iCarly, and especially because she was kind of forced to do this by her mother and faced a lot of abusive situations while filming the TV show, which makes it hard for her to look back on it with fondness. So I really liked hearing Jennette McCurdy's story in this one. I had no idea about the abuses that her mother put her through or that she went through while filming Nickelodeon, although I have heard in recent years about other stars coming out about the trauma that they sustained while filming Disney and Nickelodeon productions. So it was really interesting to hear her story. I'm glad that Jennette felt empowered to come out with this book and share her experiences, and it's definitely worth the read. The next book that I want to talk about is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. This tells the story of Alex Claremont Diaz, who is the first son of the United States, and the secret romance that he has with Henry, Prince of Wales. They have a very public incident at a royal wedding, and they're forced to fake a friendship, and this eventually blossoms into a passionate love affair. The novel explores challenges of navigating their relationship within the context of their high-profile lives, while also trying to maintain their privacy and manage the impact that this will have on international relations. So yes, I would say this does live up to the hype. I absolutely adored this story. This was one of my favorite books of 2024, and it's one of my favorite contemporary romances that I've ever read. I love the connection that Alex and Henry have with each other. They are so good together. They really mesh well, and the struggles and obstacles that they face in this story were really interesting to read about. I loved hearing this perspective of them as public figures, but also trying to keep things private, and neither Alex nor Henry really chose to be in the limelight. They were kind of thrust into it by virtue of their family. So Henry's family is the royal family, so he was born into the limelight, and Alex's mother is the president of the United States. So they're both put under a lot of pressure to kind of conform to the public's expectations, even though this is not something they wanted for themselves. And for that reason alone, I had a lot more empathy for both of them because they didn't choose to be public figures, and yet they're having to navigate their relationship and all the potential ramifications of it in this very public arena, and they really have no control over what is going on around them. But their romance is really cute. I love how they're able to stand up for each other and for their relationship, and I definitely would recommend this one if you're looking for a nice contemporary romance. The next book I want to mention is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas, and I'm gonna preface this by saying no, I do not think it's worth the hype. I had a really hard time getting into the story, and also Sarah J. Maas is a very problematic author. She has done some very questionable and shady things in recent years related to how she's promoted her books and some of her personal beliefs, which I personally don't agree with. But A Court of Thorns and Roses is a young adult fantasy novel that follows Feyre, who is a human hunter. She kills a wolf that turns out to be a fairy, and as punishment, she's taken to the fairy realm of Brithian and held captive there by Tamlin, a high lord. Feyre initially hates the fairy world but begins to fall in love with Tamlin, and she discovers that the fairies are under a curse and she must break it. So she has to complete dangerous tasks under the rule of the evil fairy Amaranth. Samantha. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and honestly, I had a hard time getting into it. It is very slow to start with, and I just didn't really enjoy the progression that happened from there. Also, Tamlin as a character just really irritated me, and I just couldn't get behind him, so definitely did not like this one. It's not a series that I'm going to be going back to, and if you're looking for a fantasy series, this is not one that I would recommend. There are so many out there that I prefer to this one and that I would highly recommend over acotar, so just skip this and read one of those instead. The next book is Funny Story by Emily Henry, and I would say yes, I do recommend this one. I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to diving into some more of Emily Henry's books. This follows Daphne, who always loved the way that her fiance Peter told their story of how they met, until the moment that he realized he was in love with his childhood best friend Petra. So she has to begin a new story, and she is stranded in Michigan without friends or family, but she does have her dream job as a child's librarian, and she moves in with her ex-fiance's girlfriend's ex-boyfriend Miles because she needs a roommate to help her pay the bills. He is scruffy and chaotic and takes solace in the sound of heartbreak love ballads. He is her opposite in every single way. She is very practical and buttoned up, and he is definitely not like that. They really avoid each other at first, and they don't get to know each other at the very beginning, but soon they become friends, and over time that friendship begins to build into a slow burn romance. I really enjoyed this story. I thought that Daphne and Miles were a really good fit for each other, and I love that the romance built over time. This is the friends to lovers trope, which is one of my favorite tropes in romance, and I love how it was executed. Reading about Daphne's work as a child librarian was really fun and exciting to explore, and I appreciated her character growth and development throughout the story. I thought that Miles also had some pretty good character development and growth, and seeing some of the side characters such as Daphne's family and her ex-fiance and then Miles's ex-girlfriend come into the picture and how those situations were dealt with was really fun. The hijinks of this novel and the premise were unique, so I would really recommend this if you're looking for a different take on an adult romance. Next up is the Red Queen series by Victoria Aveyard. This young adult fantasy series follows a society where there are reds and silvers. So reds are considered commoners, they don't have any special abilities, they are normal people. Silvers are the elite that possess special godlike superpowers, and Mare Barrow, who is our protagonist, she is a red, and she is 17 years old. She comes from a very poverty-stricken area, and it seems like nothing will ever change for her. Then she finds a job working at a silver palace, and here she's surrounded by the people she hates the most, but she discovers that despite her red blood, she has a deadly power of her own, and this threatens to destroy the balance of power. Mare's potential really scares the silvers, and they hide her in plain view, so they decide that they're going to declare her a long-lost silver princess who is now engaged to the silver prince. Despite knowing that one misstep would mean her death, she works silently to help the Red Guard, which is a military resistance group, bring down the silver regime. This is a world of betrayal, of lies, and there is a lot of danger and intrigue happening in this story. The political machinations are really fun, so yes, I would recommend reading the Red Queen series. I love these books, especially the first one was really strong. I just liked seeing Mare, how she challenges society's expectations and is able to come into her own throughout the series. We also get a lot of development from the princes in the story, and there's just a lot going on with that there. These superpower abilities were really fun to read about, and I thought they were really well executed. There is a good reason behind the rebellion within the story, which I think that sometimes young adult fantasy series don't have a good justification for why the world is being upended, and this one has a really clear one, so I think this is a good recommendation. If you're looking for a fantasy series to dive into, I would recommend the Red Queen series, especially over acotar. Next is Get a Life Chloe Brown and Act Your Age Eve Brown. I'm going to do these combined together because they're part of the Brown Sisters trilogy by Talia Hibbert. And Get a Life Chloe Brown follows Chloe, who is a chronically ill woman. She has a near-death experience and decides to create a Get a Life list to help her step outside of her comfort zone. She wants to live a little and have some more experiences because she realizes that she would not want to die now because she just really hasn't lived all that much. So she enlists the help of Red to help her tackle her list, and they go on a lot of adventurous activities that she normally wouldn't attempt. As they work together, they begin to develop feelings for each other, and it's a story that explores themes of self-discovering, healing, and finding love amidst life's challenges. Yes, I would recommend this one. I absolutely adore this. I absolutely adore this book so much. It is one of my favorite romances that I've ever read to date. Act Your Age Eve Brown is the third book in the Brown Sisters trilogy, and it focuses on Eve, the youngest sister who's struggling to find her path in life. She has had a series of career mishaps, and her parents insist that she get a job and act her age, so she impulsively applies for a chef position at a B&B owned by a very uptight and autistic character named Jacob, and he is initially not really impressed with her, but after an accident with a car driven by Eve leads to Jacob needing her help, she ends up working for him, and they navigate the challenges of running the B&B and trying to prepare for a gingerbread festival. So this is an enemies to lover, and their animosity slowly evolves into a friendship and then a romance. I really enjoyed this story a lot. I like the romance in here, and this is another major yes from me. I have yet to read Take a Hint, Danny Brown, but that's another one that I need to get to, and I think that'll probably be a yes from me also. Next is They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera, and this is a maybe from me. So They Both Die at the End tells the story of Mateo and Rufus. They are two teenagers who receive calls from Deathcast, which is a service that informs people when they're going to die 24 hours before it happens. And they connect through the Last Friend app, which is created to help people spend their final day together and end up forming a deep bond, exploring life, love, and loss in the face of mortality. So this one was a little bit slow to begin with, and also you kind of know what's going to happen at the ending from the very beginning, so you might not want to read it for those reasons. However, you might want to read it because it does have a good exploration into mortality and life and loss, and also explores the theme of trying to live life to the fullest in a very succinct but clear way. It's very accessible for younger audiences, and I think this one will appeal particularly to young adults. Adults may not want to pick this one up necessarily, but you might if you're interested in some of these themes. It's not the most groundbreaking book that I've ever read, but I did enjoy my time with it, so it's not a definite no from me, but it's not my favorite book that I've ever read, so I can't say that it's a yes for sure. So I think it's maybe, and it's depending on your mood and what you're looking for. Finally is Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. This follows a Stanford student named Scarlett Vandermeer who has a career-threatening injury, and she enters a friends with benefits arrangement with her best friend's ex-boyfriend, the star swimmer Lucas Bloomquist, and they begin to explore their feelings and navigate the complications of their relationship in this. Scarlett has to deal with a lot of past trauma and struggles with a mental block which affects her diving abilities, and Lucas is grappling with his own insecurities. The novel explores a lot of themes of vulnerability, self-discovery, and the power of connection within the context of a sports romance. So this is gonna be a no for me. Deep End didn't really work for me. I think that I liked Scarlett and I felt connected to the female main character, but Lucas was a very milquetoast character. He was pretty bland and I didn't feel all that connected to him. Their romance really felt a little out of the blue to me. It seemed like the only reason why they were together was because of their sexual chemistry, and I didn't really buy their emotional connection. Also, the two main characters spend so little time together within the book that it feels hard to believe in their relationship, so I really struggled with that. I think if the book had been more focused just on Scarlett's personal journey of self-discovery and also trying to deal with her past trauma, I would have enjoyed it more, because it really felt like that was what the book was about rather than the romance. The romance felt almost secondary to me, and for a book that's marketed as a very kinky romance, I just didn't feel it. I wasn't connected to this one, so it's a no from me. I just also couldn't connect with the kink in the story. It just didn't work for me. But if you enjoy a kink and spice in your romances, you might like this one. Also, if you like a lot of these sports aspects, you might enjoy this as well. I still think this is a no though, so maybe skip this one and try another one instead. Alright, that's gonna be it for me for this video. If you liked the video, give it a like, comment, and subscribe. I'd love to hear any of your thoughts on these books, if you've read them, if you plan on reading them, and leave them in the comments down below. I would love to have a conversation with you there about them, and I appreciate each and every one of you, wherever you are in the world, whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening. I hope that you're doing well, and I'll see you for another one soon. Bye!